Hello everybody, Richard the Dick Coughlin 000 here. This is going to be a video response to someone who I'm sure you're all familiar with, but who hasn't been around for a while, called Hey Ruka. If you want me to summarise her up, you're not familiar, basically she's fringe elements with tits. That's basically the best way to describe it. She made a video called Racism. It's been a long time since Hey Ruka has actually been on YouTube and made a video. It's nice to know that in that time, this is the best she could come up with as a fucking new video. Because you're going to see some wonderful examples here of cognitive dissonance on a fucking Olympic standard. The first point she makes is that she finds it interesting that her critics say that race doesn't exist, and then they call her a racist. There's a problem with this, Ruka, in the sense that I don't believe God exists, but I'm still going to call someone who believes God exists and believes that the belief in that God's existence is relevant a theist. And she then goes on to malign the fact that, racism is seen as a negative term. She claims, and I'm not making this up, racism was a word invented by Marxists for liberals. She provides no fucking source or proof for this whatsoever. Actually, the term racism was originally invented by the French in 1856, and the word racist came about in around about 1932. Before that, the term that was used was racialist or racialism. The liberals didn't go over to the Marxists and say, we need a fucking word, we're strapped here, what the fuck can we call these people? No, that's where it came from, right? She says it was used in a negative way to turn something natural and beneficial into something unnatural. This idea that, people always say racism is natural. I've never heard anyone argue that racism is unnatural. I've certainly never made the argument, and I don't see it being touted. If there are people who make it, they're very few and fucking far between. Because apparently Marxists want to create this utopia, this idea of a utopia where, and we need to eliminate anything that stands in the way of that utopia. Unfortunately, Ruka, there's a problem here in that not everybody who disagrees with you is a fucking Marxist. In fact, I'm willing to bet there's people from all fucking parts of the political spectrum who would fucking call you out and disagree with you in this video. You say that Marxists want to eliminate class and race and any form of group or identity or individual identity and create total equality. Now, I can't speak on behalf of Marxists because I'm not a fucking Marxist, but I can tell you this, that when I think of a society that functions on the basis of equality, it's anything but trying to eliminate people's need to have an identity. It's to actually encourage people to be themselves, be who you are. You all have that right to be who you want to be. Ideally, what I would prefer, though, is that people actually build their identity on who they are, not what they are. I don't like the idea that I could live in a world where people are going to look at me and go, oh, there's a white guy, and then judge me on that basis. Or there's a heterosexual guy, there's a British guy, there's a guy with short brown hair or blue eyes or a fucking shit stain on his face. And you say that they want to live in this world where nobody gets what they deserve. What do people get what they deserve, Ruka? I think the fucking amount of hatred you get on YouTube is what you deserve. She says that racial identity falls into a category of stopping that utopia that Marxists want, so it's painted as bad. Ruka, it is not hard for me or anyone else to point to moments in history or human existence where racism has led to pretty unfortunate things. We need only look at, the segregation and the oppression of black people in America up until not that long ago. We need only look at things like, the Holocaust. We need only look at things like apartheid, right? We don't have to look very fucking far or look too deeply to see why racism is generally something that maybe it has a positive maybe it has a positive way of being used, but it's never normally fucking ends up that way. Unless, of course, you're going to argue that apartheid, and the denial of black people's civil rights, that this stuff is actually, a good thing. And the Holocaust, or did that happen? I don't know where you stand on that, right? She then goes on to say that the term racist is used subjectively. Yes, you're absolutely right. It can be used in different ways depending on who you're arguing with. But the problem with that is, Ruka, is that the term race is subjective. The term racist being subjective doesn't negate its fucking use or value. Lots of terms we use are subjective. Lots of political terms are subjective. Words in general tend to be quite subjective. And unless you've got an objectively defined way of objectively defining something, which is very difficult when you're talking about issues like this, you're not going to get very far. I'm going to go through what she says. She says one sentence, and she makes these 4 fucking statements in the same sentence. You ready for this? She says, racial preference is not racism. Okay, I can live with that. At worst, it's discrimination or prejudice. That's what racism really is defined, like in the dictionary, as you know, as prejudice. The same way that prejudice or discrimination against gays is homophobia, gender discrimination is sexism. Right? She then says it's not racist, but it's not racist either. So you're saying that racial preference is not racist, but it's not racist. If it's not racist, it's racist. If it's not racist, it's not racist. And by acknowledging that something can be not racist, you're acknowledging that something can be racist. Means you're acknowledging that there is existence of something that could be defined as racism. You then say that you think the term racism is illegitimate. Well, then something can't not be racist, can it? And here's the bigger problem. You're sitting there saying that the term racism is not legitimate because it's subjective and it can't be defined and it has different definitions and uses. That's probably because when people like myself or many others have asked fuckers like you to define race, you can't fucking do it. And until you can actually define it in a way that is actually objectively fucking, rigidly definable, you can't fucking complain about it. So if racism is a useless term because it's subjective, then so is your concept of race. The term racism is used as an attack, but it's only ever used to describe natural and biological impulsions. Do you know what else is a natural biological impulsion? It's the child molester who has a natural biological urge to go out and rape a 4-year-old. It's the rapist who has a natural biological fucking impulsion to drag a woman like you down the fucking alleyway and put his hand over her mouth and force his dick into you. And if that happens, should we just brush that aside and just go, well, it's his natural biological impulsion. He just had the fucking urge to do it. You then go on, Ruka, to say, in response to anybody who wants to pull up the naturalistic fallacy, which I was going to do before you brought this up, you say that sometimes nature is both good or bad. Yes, that's very true. And then you say this. Now, you may be one of those philosophical question everything types of people who asks, what is natural, and surely anything in reality is natural? Well, you say those people are just avoiding the topic. No, Ruka. You fucking brushing that fucking statement and that question aside is avoiding the topic. There is nothing less natural or more unnatural about my fucking views on race than yours. They're both natural. When I'm sitting and have a conversation with a black guy or an Asian person, I don't sit there and have to concentrate really hard to make sure I don't say anything fucking stupid. Right? And then you bang on more about Marxists and blah, 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 blah. And I find it funny, Ukri, you use the word Marxist in this video the same way that you accuse people of calling you a racist. You are using the word Marxist to describe anyone who disagrees with you when you know perfectly well that not everyone who disagrees with you is going to be a fucking Marxist. And what I find interesting as well is how I'd like to see you make this same argument against other forms of bigotry. Do you think that people who treat women as second-class citizens, or think that women should be subordinate to men, are just simply doing their natural biological impulses that are natural and beneficial, and that to speak out against sexism against women would be simply trying to create some Marxist utopia? Or what about homophobia? Would that be the same thing? Do you think it's okay? Do you think it's natural and beneficial to speak out against someone's biological impulse just to fucking hate gay people and to oppress them? I'd like to see you do that. I don't think you will, though. Either way, thanks for wasting our time, Ruka. It's Richard the Dick Coughlan, 000. Good night, may God bless.